Have you ever felt that sinking feeling? When someone starts pulling away, they don't text back like they used to. The energy changes. Conversations get shorter. You start over-analyzing everything. Did I say something wrong? Are they just busy? Should I reach out again? It's confusing, it's frustrating, and worst of all, it messes with your confidence. But here's the truth most people won't say out loud. When someone distances themselves or starts ignoring you, they're giving you valuable information. You just have to be willing to see it. What if I told you that chasing after someone who's silent is actually the fastest way to lose your self-worth? That trying to decode mixed signals often says more about your fear of being alone than about their actual feelings. Because the people who truly care won't disappear when things get inconvenient. They won't leave you hanging and call it space. Real connection is shown in consistency, not confusion. If someone distances themselves, give them the room they seem to want and use that space to listen to yourself. Do you feel safe, respected, valued? Or are you stuck in limbo, hoping their silence suddenly turns into clarity? Love doesn't thrive in games. And it's not your job to convince someone of your worth. If you find yourself constantly matching their distance, questioning their behavior, or waiting for a sign that they care, that is your sign. The people meant to be in your life don't need to be chased. They make it easy. They make it clear. And the best part? The right person will never confuse you. So if you're feeling confused right now, maybe it's time to stop running toward them and start running toward yourself. Let's talk about why that shift changes everything. If they distance themselves and ignore you, the first instinct most people have is to panic. You start analyzing every little thing you said, every emoji, every sentence, every moment of the last conversation. You begin to wonder, did I come on too strong? Did I say something wrong? Should I text them again just to clarify? That panic, it's natural. When someone we're interested in suddenly creates distance, it triggers that deep fear of rejection, of not being enough, of being abandoned. But here's the truth. When someone goes silent on you, the worst thing you can do is try to fix the silence by getting louder. Don't chase silence, respect it. There's a difference between effort and desperation. Effort is reaching out once, being genuine, showing interest. Desperation is continuing to reach out to someone who's showing you through their actions that they're not in the same place as you. And often what people do in this situation is try to re-engage the person who's pulled away. You might think, if I just remind them of how great our connection was, if I just show them how much I care, maybe they'll come back. But what you're doing without realizing it is teaching them that they can offer you less and still keep you close, that they can withdraw, disappear, show disinterest, and you'll still be right there, eager and waiting. Let's be honest, if someone's ignoring you, that's already a statement. Silence is a message, distance is communication, and that message is, I'm not prioritizing this right now. Now, maybe they're going through something. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they're unsure of what they want. But notice this, in the moments where they're unsure, they're not choosing to clarify things with you. They're not choosing to let you in or make you feel secure. They're choosing silence. They're choosing distance. And in doing that, they're also choosing to create doubt and anxiety in your life. It's not your job to keep reaching out to someone who's showing you they're unavailable. Because the more you do that, the more you train yourself to associate love with instability. You start to believe that this is what attraction is supposed to feel like. Hot and cold, push and pull, constantly wondering where you stand. That's not love. That's emotional turbulence. And the longer you chase someone who's gone quiet, the more you disconnect from your own sense of value. When someone distances themselves, respect that space. Let them take it. Let them be exactly where they are without trying to control it. Not because you don't care, but because you do care about yourself. You care about your peace. You care about being in relationships that are mutual, where someone chooses you with the same energy you choose them. Think of it like this. If someone walks out of a room and closes the door behind them, it's not your job to keep knocking on it, begging them to open it again. Your job is to turn around and continue living your life. If they want to come back, let them be the one to re-enter. And if they don't, then you've just been given clarity. Maybe painful clarity, but clarity nonetheless. And clarity is a gift. Respecting silence doesn't mean playing games. It doesn't mean pretending you don't care. It means having standards. It means knowing the difference between someone who's temporarily busy and someone who's emotionally unavailable. And yes, it takes strength to not send that extra message. It takes courage to sit with uncertainty instead of trying to solve it. But that strength is what sets you apart. Because while most people chase, plead, and compromise themselves, you're choosing to stand still in your worth. And here's the interesting thing. When you stop chasing, you give space for truth to reveal itself. People show you who they are when you stop doing all the work. Sometimes they come back, realizing what they lost. Sometimes they don't. But either way, you win. You win because you didn't betray yourself trying to convince someone to see your value. You held your ground. You stayed rooted in self-respect. When someone distances themselves, they're not just creating space between the two of you. They're creating a test of how much you'll sacrifice to keep their attention. And if the answer is, I'll sacrifice my peace, my pride, and my dignity just to get a reply, then that's not love, that's fear. Fear of being alone, fear of not being chosen. But you deserve better than breadcrumbs. You deserve someone who doesn't leave you guessing, someone who values connection enough not to disappear the moment things get complicated. So let them distance themselves. Let them ignore you. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because your response to that silence says everything about who you are. You're not here to audition for someone's affection. You're not here to chase the distracted, convince the confused, or beg for clarity. You're here for connection that shows up, communicates, and chooses you back. If someone pulls away, let them. It's not a loss. It's protection. It's redirection. It's your reminder to stop chasing people who've already made the decision to walk. Let them feel the silence they created. When someone distances themselves from you, our natural instinct is to react quickly, to try and fix the shift, explain it away, or even worse, chase after them to bring the connection back. But what we don't realize in those moments is that space is incredibly revealing. It tells you things their words may never say. And most of all, it shows you who they really are when they're not getting constant effort from you. If you think about it, in the beginning of a relationship, whether it's romantic, platonic, or even professional, everyone puts their best foot forward. It's easy to be charming, attentive, and communicative when you're excited or trying to win someone over. But what really matters is what happens after the initial spark. What happens when life gets busy, when challenges arise, when the effort is no longer about impressing someone, but about truly valuing them. That's where space comes in. When someone starts to pull away or withdraw, you're not meant to immediately close the gap they've created. Because if you do, you're actually stopping the truth from revealing itself. You're interrupting the natural rhythm of what that space is trying to tell you. People show you who they are when you stop carrying the entire emotional load for them. It's tempting to justify their silence. They're just going through a tough time, or they're not good at communicating. But here's the hard truth. Someone who values you, even when they're overwhelmed, finds a way to make that clear. That doesn't mean grand gestures or constant texting. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, I've had a rough day, but I want you to know I'm still here. That one line says everything. Silence, on the other hand, says something else entirely. It either says, I don't care enough to explain, or I'm hoping you'll let this fade away without me having to face the discomfort. Now, let me be clear, space isn't always a sign that someone is intentionally pulling away for bad reasons. Sometimes people need room to breathe, reflect, or manage something personal. That's human. But what defines a genuine connection is how people handle that space. Do they check in? Do they acknowledge the gap? Or do they leave you wondering where you stand, replaying every moment, trying to figure out what went wrong? If someone truly cares, they won't let silence be the last word. They won't leave you in confusion. And that's what space gives you. It gives you clarity. Without you saying a word, it reveals whether their intentions were ever aligned with yours in the first place. Too often we panic in the silence. We fill it with over-explaining, chasing, or giving more than we're receiving. We mistake the connection we felt for the one that's actually there. But here's something powerful. When you stop filling the silence for them, you start hearing the truth for yourself. You start seeing that maybe they only showed up consistently when you were the one driving the connection. Maybe they were only engaged when it was convenient. Or maybe they never intended for this. Go anywhere serious in the first place. And now they're hoping you'll take the hint without them needing to say it out loud. That's why I say, don't rush to fix the distance. Let the silence speak. Let it play out. You're not being passive. You're being intentional. You're watching how they show up without pressure. That is incredibly powerful because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll either witness someone who values you enough to reach back across the gap, or you'll witness someone who was never really invested to begin with. And if it's the latter, no amount of chasing will change that. In fact, chasing them just teaches them that you'll always come running. Even when they're not showing up for you, relationships aren't built on constant pursuit. They're built on reciprocity, on mutual effort, clarity, and care. If someone distances themselves, that's their move. What you do next, that's yours. But I promise you this, when you stop scrambling to hold on to people, the right ones naturally stay. They don't run from space. They use it to reaffirm where they stand. So give space, not as a punishment, not as a strategy, but as a way to let the truth rise to the surface. If they care, they'll show you. And if they don't, you never lose someone by giving them space. You only lose the illusion of connection that wasn't real to begin with. You know, one of the most dangerous things we do when someone pulls away from us, when they start ignoring our texts, when the energy changes, when the warmth we once felt starts to fade, is that we begin to internalize their distance as a reflection of our own worth. We start asking ourselves, what did I do wrong? Am I not good enough? Was I too much? Was I not enough? And before we know it, our self-esteem starts getting entangled with their behavior. Their inconsistency becomes the mirror we use to judge our own value. But here's the truth. Your value is not measured by someone else's attention. It's not determined by whether or not they choose to show up. People withdraw, ignore, or disappear for all kinds of reasons, most of which have absolutely nothing to do with you. You might be amazing. In fact, you probably are. You might bring light, kindness, humor, depth, all of it. But sometimes people don't know how to receive that, or maybe they're not ready for it. Maybe they're dealing with their own fears, insecurities, or even immaturity. And instead of communicating, they vanish, they pull back, and they let silence do the talking. But their silence does not diminish your worth. Let me say that again. Their silence does not diminish your worth. When someone disappears or withdraws emotionally, we're so quick to turn the spotlight inward. We assume it's our fault. But that reaction, that habit, is something we have to unlearn. Because if you're constantly evaluating yourself based on the presence or absence of someone else's validation, then you're handing over the key to your confidence to someone who never asked to hold it in the first place. It's like this. Imagine you walk into a room and you shine. You're just being you. You're vibrant, you're kind, you're engaging, and someone in that room looks at you and doesn't respond with enthusiasm, or maybe they don't notice you at all. Does that make you any less of who you are? No. It just means they weren't tuned in or they weren't in the right space to receive what you bring. Maybe they were distracted, maybe they were intimidated, maybe they were just not your people. But your energy, your light, it didn't change. You're still the same person. The only thing that changed was their capacity or willingness to see it. So when someone ignores you, don't rush to change yourself to fit into the shape of what you think they might accept. Because even if you bend and mold and shrink to become what you believe they want, it's never sustainable. You lose yourself in the process. And in the end, the person you're trying to impress still might walk away. So now, not only have you lost them, you've lost yourself too. Instead, hold your ground. Hold your standards. Take a breath and remind yourself, I'm not for everyone. And that's okay. The right person won't need convincing. They won't need chasing. They won't need grand performances or constant reassurance. They'll feel your energy and respond with consistency. They'll recognize your value without you needing to audition for it. And look, I get it. Rejection stings. Even silence can feel like rejection, especially when we've built a connection or shared intimacy. It's human to feel hurt, but that feeling doesn't have to translate into self-doubt. You can feel disappointed without feeling worthless. You can miss someone without missing yourself in the process. Sometimes the lesson isn't in getting the person back. Sometimes the lesson is in how quickly you remember who you are after they leave. It's in how fast you return to your center, how you ground yourself in your own truth, how you remind yourself, I don't need someone else's attention to validate my existence. You are not a product that gains value based on how many people are lining up to buy. You are a person with inherent worth, with or without applause. And the ones who see that clearly, they won't walk away. They won't leave you questioning your enoughness. They won't go radio silent when things get real. So the next time someone starts to distance themselves or ignore you, don't ask, what's wrong with me? Ask instead, do I want someone in my life who thinks silence is an answer? Because I'll tell you right now, you deserve someone who shows up, someone who brings clarity, not confusion, someone who adds to your peace, not your anxiety, someone whose presence reinforces your value, not someone whose absence makes you question it. And if that person isn't them, that's okay, because what's meant for you will never make you beg for attention. If someone's pulling away from you, distancing themselves and creating silence where there used to be connection, the instinct for many of us is to lean in, to try harder, to prove we're still worth their time. Maybe if I send one more text, maybe if I say the right thing, maybe if I show them how much I care, they'll come back. But here's the truth that most people miss when they're caught in the confusion of being ignored. Energy speaks louder than words. And when someone changes their energy toward you, when their attention fades, when their effort dries up, your response should be to mirror that energy, not fight it. That's not about playing games. That's about maintaining dignity. When someone distances themselves, it's often a test you didn't even know you were taking. Not because they're doing it intentionally to manipulate you, but because life naturally reveals where people's priorities are. And when you start to feel them withdrawing, it's easy to fall into a place of anxiety. That panic makes you want to do something, anything to close the gap. But what's really happening is your self-worth is being challenged. Your mind tells you, I have to fix this. But your soul is whispering, this isn't love. The right move in these moments isn't to push harder. It's to hold your ground, to match the distance, not with anger, not with attitude, but with grace. If they're giving less, you don't have to give more to compensate. You simply give less too. Not to punish them, but to protect you. That's a concept people struggle with because we've been trained to believe love is proven by what we endure, that we should fight for people, that persistence equals value, but love is not about chasing someone who's walking away. It's about building something, with someone who chooses to walk beside you, even when it's not convenient, even when they have every reason not to. If they're going quiet on you, it's not your job to turn up the volume. It's your job to listen to what that silence means. And the meaning isn't always dramatic. Sometimes people pull away because they're unsure, because they're afraid, because they're distracted, and that's okay. You're allowed to give them space, but you're not obligated to fill that space with your effort just to keep them interested. You have to understand the power of being able to say, I'm going to let them show me who they are. When you mirror their energy, you stop writing stories in your head about what might be going on. You stop trying to decode their actions. You start paying attention to the only thing that matters, reality. Are they making effort? Are they communicating? Are they investing? If not, that's all you need to know. What happens when you mirror someone's energy is you take your power back. You shift from being someone who reacts emotionally to someone who responds you stop being the person who needs to be chosen and you become the person who chooses. And here's where something beautiful happens. When you stop chasing, you create space, not just for them to come toward you, if that's what they truly want, but for the right person to find you. Someone who won't leave you guessing, someone who meets you with the same energy willing to give, someone who sees the way you respect yourself and is drawn to that, not intimidated by it. A lot of people fear that if they match someone's distance, they'll lose them. But what you'll actually lose is the anxiety of constantly proving yourself to someone who isn't ready to receive you. And what you'll gain is peace. Peace of mind, peace of heart, and a clear view of who's genuinely there for you and who is just passing time. Matching energy isn't cold, it's clarity. It's not about withholding love, it's about choosing who to give it to. Because love, real love, isn't about convincing, it's about connection. And connection doesn't have to be forced. If it's right, it flows. If it's mutual, it's obvious. So if they start pulling away, don't panic. Breathe, observe, and most of all, don't make their distance a reason to abandon yourself. You don't have to dramatize the situation. You don't have to figure it all out right now. You just have to be still enough, strong enough, and self-aware enough to match what you're given with love, but with limits. Because the people meant for you won't need you to chase them to stay. They'll stay because they see your value and they'll match it with their own. You know, when someone distances themselves or starts ignoring you, it's easy to get caught in the spiral of trying to decode their silence. You start overanalyzing, reading into the lost texts, replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you did something wrong or if you should have done more. That silence becomes this loud, uncomfortable void, and suddenly you're not just dealing with their absence, you're battling your own self-doubt. But here's what I want you to hear. Their silence is giving you a rare opportunity, an opportunity to actually hear yourself. Because in the noise of connection, in the back and forth of wanting to be seen, to be chosen, we often mute our own voice just to stay close to someone. We twist ourselves into a version we think they'll want. We ignore our gut instincts, those subtle feelings of emotional hunger or unmet needs, just so we can keep the conversation going. But when they stop responding, when they pull away, that's the moment the noise stops. And in that space, your voice, your true self can finally speak again. It's not comfortable. That silence feels like a rejection, a loss, a question with no answer. But it's also clarity, because when you're not being flooded with their presence, their validation, or their attention, you start to notice the way you really feel. You start to realize how much emotional energy you've been pouring into trying to keep their attention. You notice how much of your self-esteem was getting wrapped up in their responses or their lack of it. This is where something beautiful can happen. When someone disappears, it's tempting to fill void with thoughts of them. But the real power move is filling that void with you. Sit in the silence and ask yourself, what do I want? What do I deserve? Was this connection really meeting my needs? Because if we're being honest, many of us ignore red flags, inconsistencies, or emotional unavailability just to hold on to potential. But when someone pulls away, that illusion gets shattered. And in that space, you get to see reality. You get to see whether you were truly being valued or just being convenient. And you know what? It hurts to admit when we were chasing something that wasn't real. But the hurt is part of the healing. That space they created by stepping back, it's the same space you now get to fill with boundaries, with clarity, with self-respect. That's not emptiness. That's your life making room for something better. We need to stop romanticizing people who communicate through absence. Love isn't shown by disappearing and seeing if you'll follow. It's shown by showing up, by consistency. And anyone who tries to keep you guessing about where you stand isn't giving love, they're playing with your peace. The people who want you in their life, who respect you, who see your value, they won't put you in a position to question it. So when they go quiet, don't turn up the volume on your effort. Don't rush to text again. Don't over-apologize for things you're not even sure went wrong. Don't make excuses for their behavior just to preserve the hope of something that's already slipping away. Sit with the discomfort, not to punish yourself, but to free yourself. Because once you start hearing your own voice again, you start choosing differently. You stop chasing people who make you feel small. You stop overextending just to be seen. That space they left, that silence, it's your turning point. You get to use it as fuel, not for fixing what's broken, but for rising into someone who no longer tolerates mixed signals, inconsistency, or emotional crumbs. Someone who doesn't just know their worth, but lives like it. So no, their silence isn't your enemy, it's your mirror. And what you see in it, that's where your power is. That's where healing begins. That's where you finally start listening to the part of you that says, I deserve more than this. Because you do. You know, one of the most powerful lessons you can ever learn in love and in life is this: the right person won't confuse you. We spend so much time trying to decode mixed signals. We analyze text, we replay conversations, we go to our friends and say, well, they said this, but then they did that. What do you think that means? And listen, I get it. I've been there too. It's easy to get caught in the cycle. But here's what I want you to remember. When someone truly wants you in their life, they make it clear. They don't keep you guessing. You won't be left in the dark waiting 3 days for a text that should have taken 30 seconds. You won't feel like you're walking on eggshells, scared to express how you feel because you're worried you might scare them away. You won't constantly question whether you're too much or not enough, because when someone sees your value, truly sees it, they won't risk losing it. They show up, they make effort, and they make it known. Now, I know what you're thinking, but what if they're just busy? What if they're going through something? Sure, life gets messy. People get overwhelmed. But consistent care doesn't vanish when someone is truly invested. Even in the midst of chaos, people find small ways to stay connected when it matters. A message that says, hey, I'm thinking of you, just been swamped, but I'll catch us in, takes 10 seconds, right? But it speaks volumes. Don't confuse someone's occasional effort with true consistency. There's a big difference between someone who checks in when it's convenient and someone who genuinely prioritizes you. The person who's right for you won't leave you in a state of emotional limbo. They won't breadcrumb you just enough to keep you around. They won't spark up connection only to let it fizzle when you start to open up. That's not connection. That's control. That's someone enjoying your presence when it suits them, but refusing to give anything real in return. And the truth is, the more you make excuses for inconsistency, the longer you stay stuck in something that's never going to grow. You wait, you hope, you settle, all while trying to earn someone who should have already chosen you. But love isn't earned by struggle. It's not something you prove yourself worthy of by tolerating uncertainty. Real love is recognized, not wrestled for. Think about it. When someone really cares, they don't risk confusing you. They give you clarity. They communicate. They take you seriously. They don't play games with your emotions. That's the kind of connection you deserve. One where you feel safe, where you feel seen, where the effort is mutual and the intentions are transparent. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop chasing people who confuse you, you make space for the ones who don't. You open the door for the kind of relationship that doesn't leave you anxious and guessing, but instead leaves you feeling grounded and empowered. You stop wasting energy trying to prove you're enough and start investing that energy into building something with someone who already sees you as enough. You don't have to beg for love. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to lose yourself trying to be what someone else might want. You just have to be. And the right person, the truly right person, they'll love you in that being. They'll celebrate it. They'll cherish it. So if you're in a situation right now where someone's distancing themselves, ignoring your messages, showing up only when it's convenient, and I want you to ask yourself, is this clarity or is this confusion? Because if it's confusion, it's your signal. Not to chase harder, not to try and fix it, but to recognize that this isn't your person. And that's not a loss, that's freedom. That's your opportunity to stop running after the wrong energy and start standing in your value. Because when you do, the right person won't be far behind. And when they show up, you won't have to ask, what does this mean? You'll know. You'll feel it because the right person won't confuse you.